Welcome back to the podcast, Catch It, A New Perception. My name is Gatuk. I hope today finds you well. I hope your loved ones are well. Thinking about how sometimes certain people want something, and the difference between desire and what's good for us. What he wants and what is good for him are two different things. And when I say that, originally thinking of a child, a wee one. He wants a candy bar. Now he wants another candy bar. And before he gets done, maybe even a third. A little chocolate bar. The thing about this is that just because someone wants something doesn't mean it's good for them. And I use a chocolate bar for an example with a wee one because I think it's something that all of us can wrap our heads around, and we've seen it and experienced it in our lives, or seen it close to us. We've seen it somewhere along the line. Halloween candy, they go out and get all this Halloween candy, and they go trick-or-treating. Maybe on Easter they get an Easter basket. Different holidays, Christmas, they might get a stocking full of chocolate bars and sugary treats, and they just want them all. And then they don't want to eat a meal. So what they want may be one thing. I'm just under the impression that this is true of people in the world as a whole. It doesn't stop just because we're no longer wee ones. We've become a young lad or a young girl, and we're coming up, and we still have this desire. As we become adolescents, we have this desire and this want, and some of these things aren't good for us. And it's hard to see what the truth is. And then we get to a point where we realize what we want is something different than what's good for us. Sometimes what we want and what's good for us coincide. That is that essence of becoming spiritually fit. And so often when we're young, we live in spirit, we live in humanness. The humanness outweighs the spirit, and all of a sudden we just do what is within human desire. Whether I use the example of a chocolate bar, whether I use the idea of sex as an adolescent, whatever that may be, we will want something that's not good for us, and that desire for what we want will overtake so many other things so often. And then we get to a point where we become more spiritually fit, and we begin to recognize this. And when we can recognize it, we have an opportunity to change. What happens to so many people going through life, it seems like, it's not recognized. We don't realize. We just think, oh, I want it, I'm going to go get it. A narcissist is a great example of this. Someone that is all about themselves. That's all that they think about, and that's all that matters, and they will manipulate everyone in their path to get exactly what they want, and they'll get you to believe that they're not doing it for selfish reasons. They're going to get you to believe they're doing it for you. I get it. All of these are factors out there in the world. The only thing I need to concern myself with is, am I a narcissist today? Do I only get what I want? Do I only go after what I want, or do I go after what's healthy for me? Do I think about other people? Now, what's healthy for me is to not be all about me. And I get that some people have this whole mindset. You got to look out for number one. It was something I heard when I was a child that I needed to dismiss because I'm always going to take care of myself. I get that. I come first. The difference between self-care and selfishness. I did a whole episode on this. I get it. That's not lost on me. What I'm talking about is the idea of being able to get away from these desires and these wants and getting into needs and what's healthy for me. And then turning that want and need into the same thing. That is that spiritual connection. That may be the beginning of being tethered, as I've spoken about in a recent episode. That idea that when we get everything in our world that we need, we realize that it's all we wanted the whole time. Was to be happy, to be content, to be loving, to be respectful. And then all of those desires that are unhealthy fall by the wayside. So at some point, and some of you people maybe listening to this podcast are just in that space, and maybe you have been in that space your whole life, where your needs and your desires are equally important to each other, and they are the same. To me, that is a sense of being spiritually fit. The more spiritually fit that I am, the better off the people around me are, the better off I am. That doesn't have to do with selfishness, that has to do with self-care. And within that self-care, it means that I'm paying attention to what other people around me need. I may not always fight for their desires. I remember when one of my children was a little younger and her mother said to me something along the lines of, "My child will want for nothing." And that was always an interesting statement to me, because I thought it's healthy for a kid to want something they're not going to have. I remember telling my older daughter when her mother said to her something about something that she desired. Her mom tells her, "Oh yes, we'll do this for you. We'll get this for you." And I told her, I said, "That's not realistic." I said, "Until you decide when you're an adult that you still want this and it becomes important to you, I hope you do everything in your power to make it happen. It's not going to happen when you're a kid. And I'm not going to lie to you and tell you, oh yes, it's coming." I get that we should speak things into existence, and there should also be some reality to it. That when things are going to be more cost-worthy than what I have the ability to be able to have for money, I can't help a child with a desire like that. It's not realistic. And the long-term effects of meeting needs and wants, desires and essentials. So moving forward, what I find is that the essence of being able to change is important. The solstice, the winter solstice being upon us, ending another season of this podcast, thinking about all the things that we have talked about in the last dozen episodes, looking forward to the future and what we'll do in the next dozen episodes over the next season. A baker's dozen as we do them. And how the ending is a new beginning. How needs and desires have come together. And we create a new beginning like we never could before. We have an ending and a finishing to something that we've never had in our lifetime. It's all new, it's all different, as it remains the same. Certain threads through our lives are continuous, and they seem to not change. No matter what we do to change, they don't change. And then other things that we do. We have a desire, say we're not in a relationship presently, whether we're young or not so young, whether we're an elder or a wee one. We have certain desires to have people in our lives. Some of those are out of necessity when we're a wee one, when we're a young lad. We have some adults in our lives, we have some siblings, some family, and those are necessity also, in some degree. Friends, they're a necessity. And they're a desire. So there's that healthy balance there. What about if you were coming up like I did, and relationships that I was in when I was coming up, the relationships that I was in with women, weren't healthy. And I really desired to be with someone. And they weren't healthy relationships. And I didn't realize that I would get into relationships with people and I was not capable of being healthy in a relationship. So how could I find someone to be healthy with when I wasn't healthy? I say this because I had a desire to be in a healthy relationship. I didn't have the know-how. I didn't know that I was the one that was broken. I was the one that needed help changing. I have a tendency to want to point my finger a different direction rather than towards myself. What I've found is that when I am the problem, I can fix that. I can work on that. I can change something. If you're the problem, I will never be able to change that. So I like the fact that the solution is by knowing that I am the problem. When I am the problem, I can decipher the difference between a desire and a need, a want and a need. I can see the difference between them, and I can see how they coincide together in my life. The majority of my life today, I do what I want, and it's exactly what I need in my life. It's incredible when you begin to surround yourself with people that will encourage you to do the very best, will encourage you and tell you how beautiful you are, how intelligent you are, how amazing you are, how smart in every way. You have a beautiful essence. You're a beautiful person. So wonderful. You're a wonderful person. And they tell you who you are through their eyes. And you begin to see it. And when you begin to see the way that other people see you, and you're that beautiful essence of a person, and then your needs and your wants come together because you realize you're walking the way you need to walk today. We walk towards it. We can be kind and we can be honest. We can be fulfilling in our lives and others. We may have some work to do to be able to change things, and we've changed so much, we should really give ourselves some credit for it. Tell yourself how great you are at what you do, the way that you bring your needs and wants together. Your desires are exactly what you've needed the whole time when you live on a healthy spiritual plane and you're tethered to the Creator. May it be a beautiful, wonderful new beginning to the winter solstice. Moving in to another new moon, another full moon, moving through it, and looking forward to months off to that spring equinox. Looking forward to next time. Live in harmony with and use the bounty of the land to bring kindness to the world. Dok Shao Ket.